Students, you must have used the term B-complex vitamins often in your daily life. You might be wondering why we need to learn about these. What is its role in our body? It is important for us to gain a good understanding of this nutrient, that is niacin, in terms of its chemical structure, biological role, deficiency and toxicity. Vitamin B3 is used commonly to refer to different compounds, nicotinic acid and niacinamide. B3 was first isolated during oxidation of nicotine from tobacco and was thus given the name nicotinic acid. Later, the name niacin was derived from nicotinic acid plus vitamin. Vitamin B3 is also referred to as vitamin PP, a name derived from the absolute term pellagra preventing factor. This vitamin was once called the anti-black tongue factor because of its effect in dogs. Niacin is one of the water-soluble vitamins. In 1735, a Spanish physician, Casals, described a disease called pellagra, a term of Italian origin meaning rough skin. In 1915, Goldberger conducted an experiment on 12 prisoners and fed a diet consisted of sweet potatoes, cornbread, cabbage, rice, corn grits, syrup, sugar, biscuits and black coffee. After a few weeks, the prisoners developed headache, abdominal pain and general weakness, and in about 5 months, the typical dermatitis of pellagra appeared. Goldberger in 1914 suggested the existence of pellagra preventing factor and related it to B vitamins through epidemiological and experimental work. Nicotinic acid was isolated as a pure chemical substance in 1867. However, in 1937, Elgin demonstrated that the vitamin can cure both pellagra in humans and black tongue in dogs. In the blood, brain, kidney and liver, it is converted to the coenzymes nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, both of which are involved in the generation of energy in cells. Tryptophan is an amino acid which is a provitamin of niacin. After studying this unit, you will be able to understand the structures and chemical characteristics of niacin, functions of niacin, the digestion, absorption and metabolism, food sources and deficiency symptoms of niacin. Let us start with the structure. Niacin is considered as a generic term of nicotinic acid and nicotinamide. Structurally, nicotinic acid is pyridine 3-carboxylic acid while nicotinamide is nicotinic acid amide. The vitamin activity of niacin is provided by both nicotinic acid and nicotinamide. The structure of nicotinamide incorporates a 6-atom ring with one nitrogen atom in the ring and another in the amide group side chain. Nicotinic acid is the other common form of niacin. It has the same ring structure, but oxygen atoms replace the nitrogen atom in the side chain. The nicotinic acid form of the vitamin produces severe side effects when taken in large doses. However, it is sometimes used as a medication to reduce high cholesterol levels in blood. Nicotinic acid was first produced from nicotine long before it was known to be a nutrient. Despite the similarities between nicotinic and nicotinic acid, their functions are very different. Let us understand the chemistry and characteristics of niacin. Nicotinic acid and niacin amide with the formula C6 H5NO2 or organic compounds of relatively simple structure with equal biological activity. The two forms are white, bitter tasting compounds moderately soluble in hot water but only slightly soluble in cold water. Niacin is very stable to alkali, acid, heat, light and oxidation. Even boiling and autoclaving do not decrease its potency. This water-soluble solid is a derivative of pyridine with the carboxyl group at the third position. Other forms of vitamin B3 include the corresponding amide nicotinamide, where the carboxyl group has been replaced by a carboxyamide group, as well as more complex amides and a variety of esters. Niacin and niacinamide are both readily absorbed from the small intestine. Let us identify the food sources of niacin. Diet that furnishes sufficient amount of protein provides enough niacin, that is, protein supplies tryptophan for conversion to niacin. Animal proteins contain about 1.4% protein and plant sources about 1% protein. Assuming that a mixed diet provides 1% of the protein as tryptophan, then an intake of 65 grams protein is equivalent to 650 milligrams tryptophan or 10.8 milligram niacin. In animals, niacin is present as nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, that is NAD, and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, that is NADP. However, after the slaughter of animals, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate undergo hydrolysis, resulting in meat providing niacin as free nicotinamide. Poultry, meat and fish are the most important sources of niacin. Organ meats, peanuts, peanut butter and brewer's yeast are rich sources. Whole grains are fair source of niacin, but some of this is in the bond form, which may not be completely available. Potatoes, legumes and some green leafy vegetables contain fair amounts of preformed niacin, but most fruits and vegetables are poor sources. Milk and milk products are also poor sources. Let us understand digestion, absorption and transportation of niacin. The digestion of niacin involves the conversion of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide to nicotinamide ribonucleotide in presence of intestinal pyrophosphatase and nicotinamide by NAD glucohydrase. Nicotinic acid and its amide are readily absorbed by sodium dependent facilitated diffusion or passive diffusion in the stomach and small intestine. However, tissue uptake of nicotinic acid and nicotinamide is by simple diffusion. Metabolic trapping as nucleotides in erythrocytes is through facilitated diffusion. Concentration of vitamin in the lumen of the intestine, however, appears to determine its mode of absorption. At low concentrations, niacin absorbed almost completely by passive diffusion. In the plasma, niacin is found primarily as nicotinamide, but nicotinic acid also may be found. Up to about 1/3 of nicotinic acid in the plasma is bound to plasma proteins. From the blood, nicotinamide and nicotinic acid move across the cell membranes by simple diffusion. However, nicotinic acid transport into kidney, tubules and red blood cells requires a carrier. Metabolism and excretion. NAD generated from nicotinamide or produced in the liver from tryptophan and NADP can be degraded by glycohydrolase into nicotinamide and ADP ribose. The released nicotinamide is ethylated and is then oxidized in the liver into many metabolites such as N-methyl nicotinamide, N-methyl 2-pyridine 5-carboamide, N-methyl 4-pyridone carboxyamide, etc. that are excreted in the urine in small amounts. Nicotinic acid and nicotinamide is excreted in small amounts as both the compounds may be actively reabsorbed from glomerular filtrate. Storage and distribution. Niacin is readily absorbed from the small intestine. Vitamin is trapped within the cell as NAD or NADP. Some small reserves are available in the body, in liver, and day-to-day supply is desirable. In the liver, excess niacin and tryptophan are converted to NAD and stored in small amounts not bound to enzymes. NAD may be degraded to yield nicotinamide, which then is available for transport to other tissues. NAD is found primarily in its oxidized form, that is NAD+, while NADP is found in cells mainly in its reduced form, that is NADPH. Any excess gets excreted in the urine. Tryptophan, one of the essential amino acids, is a precursor of niacin, so that a diet that contains a liberal amount of tryptophan will provide enough niacin even though the diet is low in niacin. Biological functions of niacin. We know that approximately 200 enzymes are primarily dehydrogenases, require the coenzymes NAD and NADP, which act as a hydrogen donor or electron acceptor. They are therefore key components of many metabolic pathways. Niacin functions as a substrate in non-redox roles as a donor of adenosine diphosphate ribose. Both nicotinic acid and nicotinamide are very similar and undergo reversible reduction in similar way. However, their functions in the cell are quite different. The major role of NADH is to transfer its electron from metabolic intermediates through the electron transport chain, thereby producing adenosine triphosphate. NADPH acts as a reducing agent in many biosynthetic pathways. NAD and NADP are tightly bound to their apoenzymes and can easily transport hydrogen atoms from one part of the cell to another. These reactions occur in the mitochondria and the cytoplasm. NADH and NADPH functions as coenzymes in several oxidation reduction reactions. Generally, NAD plus linked dehydrogenase catalase oxido reduction in oxidative pathways, while NADP plus linked dehydrogenases or reductases are found in pathways concerned with synthesis. Oxidative reactions in which NAD participates and is reduced to NADH are glycolysis, oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate, oxidation of acetyl-CoA in TCA cycle, B-oxidation of fatty acids, oxidation of ethanol. NAD is required for catabolism of vitamin B6 as pyridoxal or to its excretory product pyridoxic acid. NADPH is generated from NADP by reduction, which occurs as part of the hexose monophosphate shunt by the mitochondrial. This NADPH produced is used in some reductive biosynthesis such as fatty acid synthesis, cholesterol and steroid hormone synthesis, oxidation of glutamate, synthesis of deoxyribonucleotides, degeneration of glutenin, vitamin C and thyroredoxin, conversion of folate to active forms, that is dihydrofolate and tetrahydrofolate, synthesis of 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate and 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate. The other functions are: niacin is essential for the manufacture of enzymes that provide cells with energy. These cells are nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Niacin is involved in reactions that generate energy in tissues by the biochemical conversion of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Niacin is also essential for the growth and is involved in the synthesis of hormones. Niacin is absorbed in the intestine and stored in the liver. Excessive niacin is excreted in the urine, helps synthesize DNA. Niacin is essential for healthy skin, tongue and digestive tract, tissues and the formation of red blood cells. It helps in normal secretion of bile and stomach fluids. Niacin is essential for the synthesis of various hormones including sex hormones, cortisone, thyroxine and insulin. Nicotinic acid is a part of the glucose tolerance factor, a compound which enhances the body's response to insulin. Niacin is essential for the normal functioning of the brain and nervous system. It is used in treating schizophrenia and other mental illness and a memory enhancer. Nicotinic acid given in drug dosage improves the blood cholesterol profile and has been used to clear the body of organic poisons such as certain insecticides. The repair of the genetic damage that occurs when cells are exposed to virus, drugs or other toxic substances requires niacin-dependent coenzyme. Let us study the deficiency of niacin. The disease is associated with poor socio-economic group, especially in the middle-aged population, whose diet consists of cereals which contain incomplete protein, for example, maize, sorghum, corn, etc. Diets poor in protein with high levels of leucine, like sorghum and corn, resulted in niacin deficiency due to amino acid imbalance as reported by Gopalan and Srikantaya from Andhra Pradesh, India. Recent studies have documented that leucine inhibits tryptophan uptake, resulting in diminished supply of precursors of nicotinamide synthesis. The deficiency of niacin, which causes pellagra, involves gastrointestinal tract, the skin and the nervous system. Non-specific signs such as anorexia, nausea, digestive disturbances and emotional changes like anxiety, irritability, insomnia, etc. may be seen in the early stages. However, symptoms of mild niacin deficiency include indigestion, fatigue, sores, vomiting, depression, loss of weight, loss of appetite. Severe deficiency of niacin causes pellagra, involves gastrointestinal tract, the skin and the nervous system. Early signs include fatigue, loss of weight, loss of appetite and generally poor health. Sore tongue, mouth, throat with glossitis extending throughout the gastrointestinal tract is present. This is because of the inflammation in the mucous membrane of the gastrointestinal tract. The inflammation can result in several glossitis, stomatitis, esophagitis, gastritis and enteritis with bloody diarrhea. The tongue and lips become extraordinarily red in color. The mouth becomes so sore that it becomes difficulty to eat and swallow. Nausea and vomiting are followed by severe diarrhea. A characteristic symmetrical dermatitis will be found on exposed surfaces of the body: hands, forearms, elbows, feet, legs, knees and neck appears as the skin is photosensitive. In case of dermatitis, skin becomes red, gets swollen, tender and resembles sunburn. The lesions are hyperkeratotic and hyperpigmented, followed by secondary infections in rare cases. The lesions on the neck appear in the form of necklace called Castle's necklace. If this condition is not treated, skin becomes rough, cracked, scaly and ulcerated. The skin changes because of the decreased collagen content and increased urocanic acid and alteration in copper metabolism. Neurological symptoms include confusion, dizziness, poor memory and irritability leading to hallucinations, and dementia gets severely increased. Insomnia being the characteristic feature of pellagra, it can manifest in disorientation, hallucinations and delirium. The peripheral nerve may be affected, decreased nerve conduction, improper coordination and tremors, spastic paraphagia has also been reported. Pellagra is also seen secondary to alcoholism and malabsorption. Studies have indicated that in patients with alcoholic pellagra, that is niacin deficiency, may be an important factor influencing both the onset severity of this condition. Patients with alcoholism typically experience increased interstitial permeability, leading to negative health outcomes. Drug-induced metabolic aberrations can also lead to pellagra. It may occur in Coronoid syndrome patients with aminoaciduria, an autosomal genetic disorder where there are defects in absorption of tryptophan in the intestines and the kidney. Hartnup disease is a hereditary nutritional disorder resulting in niacin deficiency. This condition was first identified in the 1950s by the Hartnup family in London. It is due to the deficit in the intestines and kidney, making it difficult for the body to break down and absorb dietary tryptophan. The resulting condition is similar to pellagra, including symptoms of red, scaly rash and sensitivity to sunlight. Let us sum up the episode. Niacin is a major B complex vitamin that plays an important role in energy metabolism. It occurs mainly as NAD and NADP in animals. In some foods, niacin may be bound covalently to complex carbohydrates and called niacin, or it may be bound to small peptides called niacinogens. This bond form is seen in corn, wheat and some other cereal products. NAD and NADP are absorbed in the stomach, but they are readily absorbed in the small intestine. The absorption is through a sodium dependent system. However, it is concentration dependent. Classical deficiency of niacin results in a condition known as pellagra. The 4 Ds, dermatitis, dementia, diarrhea and death, are often used to remember signs of pellagra. Thank you students. Hope you have understood about niacin. Thank you once again.